Jake Paul is taking Anthony Joshua very seriously. I mean, these sparring partners that he has got in camp to prepare for this Joshua fight is seriously impressive. Now look, before I get into detail about why he might have brought these guys in and what these guys are going to do for him and going to teach him and going to help him do in this fight, I just want to say there's many times that a lot of people have been critical. I have been critical about Jake Paul. You know, people have said that he's not a real boxer and that he's just in the sport just for notoriety and just to take part. But one thing that, I can say is that Jake Paul is taking this fight seriously, because Jake Paul is actually doing something that some boxers, some real boxers would not do, and that is bring in top class sparring. And of course, it all comes down to money. Jake Paul has got the money to pay for these guys and put them in hotels or put them in accommodation and things like that. So, sometimes it comes down to that as well, because you got to pay for sparring partners to come in and to help you prepare for fights. But he's taking the initiative. He's brought in some really good fighters, and Jake Paul wants to prepare very diligently for Anthony Joshua. And for that, you got to give him some credit for it. Not that these sparring partners are going to, turn Jake Paul into a world-class fighter overnight, but at least he's trying. He's doing something that a boxer or every boxer that is serious about his craft should do. So, as you can see on your screen right now, Jake Paul has brought in Lawrence Okolie, Jared Anderson, and Frank Sanchez. Now, these are all fighters with different styles, but these are all fighters that bring something different to the game. So when we look at Lawrence Okolie, now why would Jake Paul bring someone like Lawrence Okolie into his camp to prepare him for Anthony Joshua? The reasons that I can mention is that Lawrence Okolie is an awkward fighter. He has such an awkward style that, is a really difficult style to fight, because he's a big guy, he's a big strong guy, he can punch, and he's jab, right hand sort of fighter. Lawrence Okolie does not have an inside fighting game. He can punch, he's got a long reach, and he knows how to land the right hand in the long range. But also, I think one of the reasons why Jake Paul brought in Lawrence Okolie is because Lawrence Okolie spars Anthony Joshua a lot, and Lawrence Okolie is very close with Anthony Joshua. So I think Jake Paul is thinking, bring in someone that knows the Joshua camp, that knows Joshua, so he can learn a few tricks and, things to do in that fight, and maybe he will get some advantages that way. And I think that is the thinking behind bringing someone like Lawrence Okolie. But what Lawrence is going to do with Jake Paul is really, get him work in terms of fighting a rangier, taller fighter, and how to get around the jab and get on the inside. Because if Jake Paul is going to do anything, right, anything in the Anthony Joshua fight, he has to get on the inside and he has to work on the inside. He cannot fight on the outside. Jake Paul cannot beat Anthony Joshua fighting long range. He has to get on the inside with a jab, and then when he comes in the inside, he has to go to work. Now, that's going to be dangerous because Anthony Joshua has an incredible check left hook, which when he finds the right distance, he can land that check left hook, and it's devastating. So it is going to be something that Jake Paul would have to think about if he wants to come on the inside and work that way. And then Frank Sanchez. Look, Frank Sanchez is one of the highly rated boxers in the heavyweight division. He is a tough Cuban. He can punch, he can take a shot. His last defeat came at the hands of Agi Cabello, who I think right now is the second best heavyweight in the division. So look, he is going to give Jake Paul some work in terms of, fighting a really difficult fight. He's got a really good jab, he's got some really good footwork. But what he has is heart and the ability to get stuck in. And I think Jake Paul is definitely going to learn a few things from someone like Frank Sanchez, giving him the work and, showing him about, staying in the fight and staying competitive. Even if you're not winning the fight, stay competitive, stay landing, and anything can happen in a heavyweight fight. So I think Frank Sanchez has that ability and has the know-how to be able to, bring something to Jake Paul's game, which he did not have before. Because if you look at all these fights in his camp right now, every single fighter is taller and bigger than Jake Paul. So the sparring that you're going to get to fight someone like Anthony Joshua is bigger, stronger guys that can punch, because you have to get used to taking those sort of punches, right, to be able to be in there and be competitive with Anthony Joshua. Now, none of these guys, right, that Jake Paul has got in camp hits harder than Anthony Joshua. None of them. But they hit hard enough to get your respect. They hit hard enough for you to feel their presence. And I think Jake Paul is definitely going to learn a few things from these guys. And then the last person in camp with Jake Paul is Jared Anderson. Now look, Jared Anderson is an up-and-coming heavyweight contender that is pretty good. He's not bad himself. I mean, he lost to Martin Okolie. But look, Martin Okolie is a big, strong guy. And, you know, he's just in your face all night, throwing shots. And it's just a difficult style for anyone, Martin Okolie. So I can understand why Jared Anderson struggled with Martin Okolie. But in terms of what Jared Anderson can teach or can bring to Jake Paul, is good fundamentals and good technical ability, because Jared Anderson is a decent fighter, right? He's an upright sort of style, good jab, right hand, you know, moving from left to right, you know, some good lateral movement as well, Jared Anderson. And he can fight, he can get stuck in when he needs to. Of course, there's questions about his heart, but, you know, in that performance against Martin Okolie, there's not much you can question about his heart, because he stood in there, he took his punishment, and he got stopped. But what he can give Jake Paul is, you know, some technical sparring and really, you know, understanding when to move, when to stay, and when to use the jab to get what you're looking for in a fight, in terms of using the jab to be able to land the right hand. Because every shot that he's going to land has to start by using the jab and finding his way through the fight by staying competitive. So look, those are very good sparring partners. Those guys have different styles. All of these guys bring something different to the table, which, you know, I think is going to help Jake Paul prepare for Anthony Joshua. Now, whether this is going to mean anything, right, on the night in the fight, we're yet to see, right? We're yet to see what Jake Paul will learn from these sparring partners. But if Jake Paul is a quick learner, he should learn a few things from these guys, because these are guys that have fought at, you know, at a good level, at a higher level, and they can give Jake Paul a lot to learn. So look, get in the comment section and let me know what you think about Jake Paul bringing in these guys to spar to get him ready for Anthony Joshua. What do you think? Is it going to mean anything for the Joshua fight? Is Jake Paul going to surprise all of us and beat Anthony Joshua? Or is this just a fight where Anthony Joshua is going to do what he wants with Jake Paul, regardless of whoever he brings in to prepare for this fight? Get in the comment section and let me know. My name is Bright. This is the Bright Show Podcast Boxing. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.